political parties don't have a coherent environmental agenda. If they did, then environmental action would underpin all other areas of government. If our politicians were taking the climate threat seriously, then responding to climate change would not just be another thing that Labour, Tory, Lib Dem or even Green do, it would be a central part of the identity of the parties. Because that's what new contexts do. They change our identity. Our awareness and our response to the new facts of climate change requires that our identities shift. Let's consider, if you will, our response to rationing in World War II. The population could gather behind this community initiative because government gave us the information to allow for a population that is aware of the long-term challenges it faces and can be involved in moulding the solution. For climate action, the awareness of climate change has to be a part of the human identity. 5-year terms of government are both too short and too long-term to have an impact on a nation's identity. Politicians focus on their career and parties react to the media, rather than on the responsibility that we have to a constituency that could respond to this historical moment. We've got to have a longer-term vision, making preparations for 20, 25, 50 years into the future, and a grassroots presence that in the very short term, in everyday life, continues to build towards that distant vision. Because there's no point planning for 15 years ahead if the future that you're planning for is one that no one can imagine. You need to bring climate change into the public debate. No one wants to spend their life pushing up a hill towards climate action if they've got no idea what the view will look like when they get there, or if they've got no idea if everyone else is pushing up the same hill too. Yet if people know, if they could really feel what that future would be like, if they could know how much it is their responsibility to define it, if they could see that only us, and really only us, have the power to sort it out, if there was someone to remind them of those facts, to coordinate initiatives, that would be an important job to do. Far more important than being just another MP biding their time in government or out, waiting to be part of the decision makers in the cabinet. Good decisions that people might make are too often put off, put in the hands of boys that are good at debating. We need to include a new voice in politics, and we need to trust that the context of climate change really will be a big enough threat, if communicated right, to inspire community activism. We've seen from the government that if we leave it in their hands, there'll be problems. In Copenhagen, I thought, I've had enough of this. For 3 years, I tried to create headlines, and yet, with the political disenchantment that is there, with the public doubt that is peddled, politicians walked away from the most important climate conference ever with empty hands. I was at the launch of the Women's Environmental Network's Climate and Women report last night. I was the youngest person on a panel of MPs. The fear that seethed from the parties was palpable, claiming that their policy on climate change was better than theirs, which was better than theirs. Bitching about the small distinctions between their party's policies whilst they ignored the issue that we were in the room to discuss, climate change. Our politicians are professionals and they're ambitious. So long as they speak sustainability whilst mindlessly pursuing growth, we are going to run out of resources. So long as our elected leaders chase after power, then once every 5 years chase after our vote, we won't have a clear and inclusive path to a sustainable future. It's too interrupted, and it doesn't involve the communities that will have to sustain any grassroots initiatives. My latest thing, and this is a long-term thing, I'm standing for Parliament in Hampstead and Kilburn with a new party called the Commons, To the established parties, this will seem incredibly lightweight. We haven't written a manifesto that we'll pass down to our constituents. We want to find out what they think. We want to paint a new picture of how an MP can work with an area. People need to be able to see and feel the future that they're heading for. They need to be involved in building it, which is why the Commons is democracy focused on community engagement. The solutions to climate change will not come from an enlightened few, an enlightened upper circle of intellectuals. It's going to come when the leaders that each individual has most contact with, be it faith leaders, community leaders, journalists, politicians, when those people have climate change as the foundation of everything they do. Let's take green jobs. There are more green jobs and more green brands than ever each year, and that's fine. But far more important is that we make the jobs that we already have sustainable. Green jobs are kind of happening, they're important, but the really important thing is to make all jobs sustainable. Green politics, kind of happening, but the really important thing is to make all politics sustainable. It's going to take investment, but investment in the future is how capitalism can be smart. One question I was briefed to talk about is comparing the money that got fueled into the banking crisis with the money that would be needed to mitigate climate change. These are completely different initiatives. One is investment in modernity, the other is a last-ditch attempt at propping up a broken system by spending massive amounts of cash. People aren't going to react to climate change unless it becomes their responsibility, so we need real leadership towards giving up power, towards making it everyone's responsibility and a part of everyone's identity. This would involve a genuine commitment to democratic engagement that no one is being sincere about, that every political party is scared of. Since announcing that I was standing for a new kind of party, I've been shot with accusations that I'm going to split the left. That's old politics talking. What we want is to do something completely new. Tories focus on Tories. Labour apparently focus on Labour. Greens on Green. Our focus has been something much more daring and much more innovative and modern. In Hampstead and Kilburn, 40% of under 30s have never bothered to vote because politics is irrelevant to them. If we can give half of those people, half of the under 30 non-voting group, a reason to vote, then there'll be no talk of splitting a left because we will have a landslide, a completely new landslide. A hung parliament may mean more people voting for what the best that their locals can offer. The person who will serve them the best, be they Labour, Tory, Lib Dem, Green, of the Commons, Independent, on May the 6th, just tick in the right box. After all, why vote for a party who will be focused, a party politician whose ambitions are focused in Westminster, when Westminster is in itself in stalemate? Vote for the person who will be most likely to know your local community's issues, who will be aware of your global community and your global impacts,